I'll show you. It's a walk with a footbar on it.
Is this your book?
It's one of my books. All the caregivers around the world today, it's time to lift you up. It's time to celebrate. Good afternoon and welcome to Connecting Caregivers with me, Linda Burhans, the gal who cares for the caregivers with love, laughter, and lessons learned, because you know I got plenty of all that stuff. And with me on the board today we have Bobby. And it's sort of a refreshing Saturday today. Sunny, the storms are gone. Oh my goodness, we had to take down all the flags from the field of honor.
Oh my goodness.
Because those could impale people.
Wow.
430 flags. We're taking down in the pouring rain. By the time I got there, they were done already. They had 24 volunteers. I don't know how they did it. And then
amazing.
Yesterday, all the flags went back up.
Yeah, I drove by
alphabetical
today.
order.
They're beautiful.
Yes. So it's a good day for that. Really good today. And, normally we would be talking to Lynn next, but Lynn is not calling in today. She is still recovering from her eye surgery, and now she's got some kind of stomach bug. Her mom. And I guess they have a place somewhere there. But when we were looking for a place for my mom, we had called, and the next thing you know, we were just getting inundated with telephone calls and emails and packages in the mail that did not help me any at all. I mean, I want my caregivers to be with somebody like my friend Frank Pasco, who's going to sit down and say, what do you like? What size kind of place? What's this? And then they're going to take you by the hand to go to see these places and to prepare for this ahead of time. So a place for mom wanted to put some big money on my show, and I was like, no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I don't think that's a good idea. And they were like, woo-hoo-hoo, and I was like, what do you do? So I want my caregivers to always know that anybody I refer, anybody that's on my website or anybody that's on this show is people that I totally trust and you can totally trust.
Thanks, Linda.
You're welcome. I'm very glad that we're in this wonderful Tampa Bay community where we are, especially with seniors, where we have so many professionals that work so well together and that they're all out there for the good of each other.
And we know each other. And if I like to say, if you've met one good one, they know others as well if you need to be referred out to other modalities.
Yeah, and it's just so fabulous because it's like a team together. My caregivers can say to me, I need to speak to a healthcare advisor, or I need a plumber. Or they can say to me, I need a specific kind of community for my mom that's in Punta Gorda. Well, I'm not in Punta Gorda, but I know people that are in Punta Gorda. We have people that have relationships with those kind of people. So we can still find a solution and an answer. And thank God for the internet and all the different groups that are on Facebook, the caregiver groups and the support groups. It's
all about who you know.
And just connecting. One thing with COVID has helped me connect so much more through my support groups, because now people from all over the United States and Canada can come to the support group, not just the people that lived in Seminole.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
And that's a wonderful thing. And then just like the Tuesday tips, I do those Tuesday 2-minute tips. And a community called me in Sarasota and said, oh, we need to have you come down here and talk to us. We like them Tuesday tips. So, you know what, if I can get 2 minutes of information to a caregiver, I never push to go live. Facebook people, we're coming in a little late. Oh my goodness.
You can blame it on me.
We're yakking. All right, someone's going to be live in a second, and I will just. All the radio people heard me. That's just fabulous. Okay, so that's okay. Okay, so here we are on Facebook. We should have been on like 7 minutes ago. Linda Burhans, the gal, the guest for the caregivers with love, laughter, and lessons learned. Our guests are Becky Moultrie from Assisting Hands and Vernick from Vernick Financial Planning. So I want to talk about some different things this week. COVID, caregiving, getting help. So I'm finding that I'm having conversations with caregivers that are admitting to me, Linda, I didn't want to pay for somebody to come in and help my mom. So I've been doing the bathing and the grooming and everything there is to do. But my mom continued to fail, and I continued to feel angry and frustrated and sad. And then my mom passed away. And if I knew this was going to happen, or I thought this was going to happen, I would have spent that money. I would have had somebody else come in and bathe mom. I would have maybe had somebody come in and just do my grocery shopping for me, or my house cleaning for me, or whatever. Because I missed that time. Because COVID has really shown a big decline in people, in healthy people. Never mind people that have Alzheimer's, dementia, cancer, Parkinson's, or whatever else it is. And I think this is something we need to address. I also find out people saying that, oh, well, I finally realized my mom should have been in a community before where there was 24/7 staff that could help her, because I was going to work and mom was just going to daycare during the day. And now I realize, but now I'm afraid. So what do you say about that?
I mean, yes, COVID is still a concern. We're seeing an uptick in it, but we're also seeing an uptick in depression, anxiety, and other illnesses that are offshoots of those things.
Right.
So when you're stressed, you're putting more stress on your heart. You are more likely to pick up an infection when your body is stressed. So, what I say to families is we are following the precautions, just like you're being careful when you go into mom's and you wash your hands and you wear a mask and you make sure you don't go when you have a sniffle or symptoms. We're doing those same things with our caregivers. We're following CDC guidelines. We're making sure that our caregivers are screened every day. Every shift when our caregivers go to clock in for a visit, they have to answer the COVID questions, we call them. Do they have any symptoms? We are still testing our caregivers every 2 weeks. We're still doing the PCR test, which is supposed to be 90% accurate. It's a snapshot in time. It's one day every 2 weeks. So, can I guarantee that we're not going to bring COVID into a house? No. But we can't guarantee it's not going to go into, if you go walk into Publix or Walmart or Walgreens or church or any restaurant. But we're doing all those precautions that we can. We're educating our caregivers. We have a great online training program we do with our caregivers called In the Know. And they have phenomenal training on hand washing protocol. And we've been doing those reminders with our caregivers. We've been educating them on coronavirus.
Yeah.
And, the cleaning of high touch surfaces and all those extra things. If anything, we can help a lot of families maybe decrease their risk of getting COVID, because we're going to send caregivers in to do that extra cleaning.
Right.
To do those extra precautions to try to keep the COVID.
It might be a little easier for that caregiver coming in to remind mom, oh, you need to wash your hands again, mama, or you need to use that, because when I'm saying it to you as a daughter, you might just be like looking at me like, who the heck are you to be telling me I need to wash my hands again? You know what
I
I mean?
always joke that you start to sound like Charlie Brown's teacher. You remember Charlie Brown's teacher?
Yeah.
They don't hear anything you're saying, just the noise.
Yeah.
It's just that same annoying noise is all that they hear.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. So, yeah, I really think that's important that people consider that. Because, Becky, you know what happens. And Mark and we were just talking about this a little while ago. How many times somebody finally says, okay, I need some help. Okay, I'm going to let someone come in. And then, like a month later, they're like, oh, why didn't I do this 6 months ago?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Why do we got to be like so stubborn about everything?
In fact, I've never heard the opposite. I've never heard, oh, darn it, I should have waited a little longer until I did this. Never heard that.
You're right, Mark. I've never heard that from a family. It's always, why didn't we do this? I can speak to, 12 years ago when my dad was passing, and it came on fast. He had cancer, and it came on quickly, and we were tapped out, and we had tons of family in the house, but we needed a break. So we brought in, this was before I had my company, we brought in home care at night. And I tell you what, that allowed us to be there during the day for Dad.
Mm-hmm.
And it gave my mom the chance to get some rest at night. And it made his passing so peaceful.
Just this morning, just on a support group I did this morning, the caregiver said he cares for his wife at home. And he said, I finally decided to get somebody to come in at night because she's up a lot at night. He said, and I can't sleep. He said, and I was fine during the day. I would be sitting watching television with her. And the next thing you know, my eyes were shut and I woke up. It was an hour later because he was so exhausted and she really can't take care of herself. He said, I slept 8 hours last night. I feel so good, And it was the same thing. Why didn't I do this sooner? Why didn't I do this sooner? So, we hem and haw and we hem and haw. We're giving you this true story. We're telling you what people are telling us. Talk to me about the people that are saving their money for the rainy day, Mark.
So I'm a financial advisor, right? So people, I say this all the time. After doing this for 26 years, I've discovered that people who need to worry most don't, and people who need to worry least do. And we have whatever you want to call the generation, the greatest generation, right. The senior generation, and they're selfless, right? They're altruistic. It's not about me, it's about you. Don't worry about me. I'll just be fine. And so they save and they save and they save and they do without. I remember I had a client, husband and wife. When they came to me, he was a big, tall guy. He was probably 6'2", and she was a little teeny tiny thing. And he had become frail. And they had plenty of money. Money was not an issue, but he got that way because he was a little stingy along the way, right? That's how he managed to save that money.
Exactly.
I'm not going to say cheap. Cheap's an ugly word. He was frugal. Yeah, he was frugal. And so, but his wife called her Joe. Joe was a little tiny, and she was taking care of him. And he had fallen down a couple times. And I said to him, we need to get some help. Well, how much is that going to cost? Well, it's about this much. Oh no, I could never. And I said, look, when you were coming up, do you remember, you didn't keep up with the Joneses, you didn't buy the new car that, oh yeah, and he had stories, my neighbor bought this and we didn't do that. We thought that was dumb. And so now he was sitting on all this money. And I said, so at the end of the day, what you were doing, it was saving for a rainy day. He said, oh yeah, absolutely. I said, it's raining like hell, right? It's raining out, it's time. And if you won't do it for you, if I had a soapbox, right, and I could stand up on my soapbox, I would stand up, I would jump up and down on the soapbox and remind people, you're not necessarily doing it for you. Spend the money for her. Don't spend it for you. Right. I know the care is supposed to be for you, right? It's your care, but I'm here to tell you, you're doing more help, you're doing more good for, in that case, his wife or your children or whoever it is that's having to give that care. Don't do it for yourself, do it for them. And that seems to be the key.
There's a little twitch there.
Yeah.
That's interesting. It's really
And he did, by the way, and it helped. So
Good. But sometimes, we need to have those conversations, and I really think, though, as everything, we need to have these conversations earlier when we're healthy. Mm-hmm. And say to your kids, if it comes to the point, you know what, Mary, I don't want you bathing me. So whatever money I got here or whatever, please use that for that. And you can, I'm sure, structure things that this is going to be used just for my care, let's say. If you have an estate and go
when we I don't want to go too deep down into a path, but we do financial plans, right? And old school financial planning, when I first started, we didn't have the software and the abilities that we have now, and all the different, I'm me, I'm a technology geek. I like all that stuff. So we have this intricate financial planning software. The point is that old school was, we said either you got to save more or live longer or spend less, right? That was the only three variables now we can put in 100 different things. We want to travel, we wanted this. And one of the things we always put in a plan is the last 2 years. And again, this is just a guess, nobody knows, but the last 2 years of one's life, you're going to have this extraordinary medical expense. Call it what you will, long-term care, home health care, assisted living, whatever it may be. And we plug in a number. We usually use the average cost of assisted living, because I think it's kind of in the middle, right? And not only do we put it in, but the computer inflates it, right? So, somebody's 60 and we're saying the last 2 years of their life and we're saying they're going to live till 90, that's a long way away. So it's going to be a whole hell of a lot more money then than it is now, because that's inflation. And so we plug that in and we put that as part of their plan when they're younger, and then they know, will they
It's
have
in the
enough?
plan.
Yeah. And so because it's realistic, right? It's just the nature of our lifespan that as we get to those last few years, we tend to have those extra needs. So why not plan for them?
Yeah. And you know what? Most of the times, a lot of people too, their kids are not so concerned about that money. Their kids want them to get that help.
Mm-hmm.
Their kids don't want to go to visit mom and dad and see that one of them is so exhausted that they're afraid they're going to pass away before the one they're taking care of.
Most kids are concerned. And in my humble opinion, the ones that aren't don't deserve the money. So there you go.
Exactly.
I was with a family last night, and the daughter for the last 3 months has been taking care of dad 24/7.
Wow.
And she's wiped out.
I'm sure.
And she finally, we've been talking for a month now. And finally, she convinced dad that I could come visit last night. And so I sat there and talked with them. And she was yelling at her dad, Dad, I don't want your inheritance. I want to take care of you. And he was so worried about not leaving her money. And she's like, Dad, I relinquish. We got to get you some help in here because I can't do this anymore. I can't live here. I miss my husband.
Yeah.
I miss my sanity, and my health is suffering, and I need to get some help in here. So we're getting in there, and we're starting with just a little.
Yeah.
They've got a caregiver coming tonight, and she's going to spend the night with them so that she can go home and sleep in her own bed the first time in 3 months.
Yeah, that's craziness.
So 2 nights this weekend, we're going to give it a try, and we're going to see how it works. And just take a deep breath and step into it.
Awesome.
Yeah, a family called me recently, and they said, okay, so they don't live with mom. Mom's 96, but they live like down the block. So they go there every night, dinner and stuff, and then they usually leave like 8 o'clock, and she goes to bed and she goes home. And now at 8 o'clock, she doesn't want them to leave. Well, could you stay longer? Could you maybe sleep over? And then they found out they have a whiteboard in the kitchen where they write notes. Monday, John's coming for breakfast, Mary's coming for lunch, whatever. And she was writing all over it, so they gave her her own whiteboard. And then the other night, she writes at 3:30 in the morning, her name is Rose. Rambling Rose. Why am I here? Oh, why am I still here? I have 9 children. Maybe I could help with babies that keep their mothers up all night. Maybe I could help with the babies. So this lady is just looking to help. So we have someone coming in from 8 to 12.
Nice.
So even if she's up then, she can chat with this other person, and then she can. And he said, I'm still concerned about, mom and everything. And I love this woman, and she's one of the women that I started. I'm going to do a podcast called Connecting Caregivers, has candid conversations with elders. So I've already done some interviewing with her. So I went to meet her last week, and I said, Mama Rose, I'm grieving Tom. I'm having a hard time, and I have some projects that I have to work on, and I really needed help. And I said, who could help me more than Mama Rose? Yeah, Linda? I said, I show him all the pictures of Skylar and my son-in-law, my grandson-in-law in the military. I told him how about it. I always send them packages all the time, but a lot of those boys don't even get cards. So Mama Rose has made a commitment to make so many cards a week for me, and she's a poet. So she's writing all this stuff, and I'm going to meet her. As soon as I come back from New York, it's going to be every Monday, Mondays with Mama Rose, for like 6 weeks. And we'll see.
Purpose.
Yeah.
Having a purpose.
And getting my fire back.
Yeah.
It's good for me too.
Yeah.
It really is. And it's just delightful.
Right.
So take that time to spend with your loved one. And you can't take that time to spend with your loved one if you're worried about them falling every second, if you're worried about them taking their medicine. Because especially now with like COVID fog, I'm lucky if I can remember about me taking my vitamins.
Right. That's why I love those little mini sets with the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Use those. Don't be afraid of having those crutches. And
I think it's a tool.
It is. It is an absolutely great tool. And there's some wonderful reminders out there. You can set timers now.
So Alexa will tell you what time you gotta take your medicine.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's really good. But right now we need to hear from our wonderful partners because you know the deal. If you don't hear from them, you don't hear from me. So don't go away. We'll be right back on Connecting Caregivers Radio. Oh. All right, we want to talk more about isolation. What do you want to talk about? What do my listeners need to hear from you? What about people starting to plan early, younger people?
Yeah, different ways. You know, one of the struggles now, of course, is
we're living longer,
and you can't just put your money in the bank because it pays zero at this point in time. So, you know, what do you do? How do you approach it? And how do you make sure that you're not going to outlive your money? You know, what are some things people could be considering? And if your parents or your spouse refuses to spend the money, what are some things that you can do?
Yeah, that's good. That's really good to know. Because there are some people that are really stubborn.
Right. And, you know, it boils down to some white lies, perhaps, but
it's compassionate living.
Right.
That's what it is. Just like I said, I would say, oh, I got a scholarship to college now. You don't have to pay for my college no more.
Right. Dad won't pay for his own care because he wants his daughter to get the inheritance. Well, daughter, do you have some resources that you can use? Because guess what? You're going to get reimbursed from dad later on. Not ideal, but we can still make it work. You know, it's forthcoming.
Smart.
Right? It's just, you know.
Oh, yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
I got a discount, Dad. They're giving me a special deal. You know, don't worry. I got it. It's really inexpensive.
Yeah, I want it from Connecting Caregivers Radio.
Right. And I have clients put it on me, you know, have them call me. I'll tell them, you know.
Yeah.
If you can get that expert, and I realize I'm giving myself a pat on the back, but you know, if you have credentials in a certain area and that person who say, look, Mark is our financial advisor. Right. He knows what you've got, and Dad, talk to him. He'll tell you, you're not going to run out of money, and I'm going to be left with just, you know, and again, that outside person, if it's not your spouse and it's not your daughter and it's not that outside expert, right? Why would I? And I'm not. Right? I wouldn't.
No.
But it's no, you know, but that outside person has sometimes, even though it shouldn't be that way, has a lot more credibility than the family member themselves, because they're biased, right? They're not looking at it through the same lens. So sometimes that outside person can get that the person coming in offering care can sometimes get to them better than that same voice.
Yeah, sometimes it's the next door neighbor.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's their friend at church.
Right.
That's why I always say you gotta know your parents' team. Who they hang with, who they trust.
Yep, and sometimes you just got to get that right person to go in there.
Right. The other thing also.
Red roses too. For me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. You can take it off a little bit.
One of the other things I wrote in my notes I was thinking about today is the cost of failure. So if we don't bring somebody in, it's going to cost you more.
Good.
If you do have to go if we bring in some help now, we can delay your need to go to assisted living or to have to go to skilled nursing, which that's going to cost you significantly more to jump to skilled nursing and go into nursing.
We can help you prevent that fall.
Yeah, because what's going to happen is if you fall and break that hip, you just took a rapid downturn, and now you're going to need even more help. So if we can
with no choice.
Right.
With no choice.
We want you to hold your remote control and decide what channels you want to. You want to watch your channels on TV? Well, let's let you call the shots.
Yeah.
And I've always found the key is to explain to them it's not about them. you know, because they're going to say, I don't need it, I'm just fine.
Yeah, but
It's
your
not
kids
about
do.
you,
Right.
but your kids do, but your spouse does, but
Yeah.
people who care about you do. So
Yeah.
do it for them, don't
Well,
do it
and
for
thinking
you.
about, I've got a gentleman that, he's like, all my neighbors are gonna do it. They're fine. My neighbors are, the neighbors are done.
Yeah, that's interesting too. I might say something about it. Yeah, you know what I say, caregivers, when somebody offers to help you, let them help you. But, you know, we were just having a little conversation before the show. And sometimes people say, oh, well, I don't really have to have somebody come in and help me. My neighbors are going to help me. My neighbors are going to help me do this or do my food shopping or take me to the doctors. And then you find out one day that your neighbors have had it up to here. Your neighbors are trying to help you for a little bit of time. But we can't really depend on our neighbors because mostly our neighbors that are usually helping us are probably the same age as us or maybe a little younger. And then, it gets a little overwhelming.
Yeah, there's a point at which your neighbors are happy to bring you a meal.
Yeah.
They're happy to sit and share some time, watch a show with you, sit and chat. But your neighbors don't want to do your dishes or clean your dirty underwear or change the sheets on your bed
Right.
or run your vacuum. They may do it once or twice, but they're not going to want to come do it every week.
No.
So keep that good neighbor.
And your neighbor wants to help you with tasks that they like, which will be chatting or picking something up at the supermarket.
Sure, because those are essential needs. You got to have somebody that's going to bring you some food. That's okay. They can do that. Let them continue to have that purpose and that friendship in your life. They always talk about, fences are a good thing in neighborhoods. Fences make good neighbors. Well, boundaries make good neighbors too. And you got to create those boundaries.
Yeah. So we were just talking, well, first time, Mark, I want to talk, and then I want to come back to that crisis, which I think is very important, the cost of failure. How do the people approach their families?
Approach their families from
For planning or, like, Mom, please.
Yeah. So
We're coming up to the holidays. They're probably going to spend some time together.
right. And you come home, you've been out of town, you come home and you see your senior family member that maybe you haven't seen in a little while, and you can immediately see the decline, right? It's just like, I know this is an odd analogy, right? But if you're with that person every day, you may not see that decline, or I joke about the weight gain, right? The weight gain doesn't happen overnight, but boy, if you're away for several months and then you come back and they put on 20 pounds, boy, you really see it.
Right.
And the same thing.
Or they lost 20 pounds.
Or they lost, yeah, that's better. I like that better.
Yeah.
So if you see that, right, it's always a difficult conversation to have, and people want to be self-sufficient and they want to take care of themselves. And so my humble opinion is that it helps sometimes to have that outside party that you bring into the conversation. We have, used to be years ago that we were not busy during the holidays, right? That period of time between Thanksgiving and New Year's.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of the inverse now, because what I'm finding is people come in with their family now. That adult daughter comes into town and recognizes mom or dad isn't doing as well. And they come and see me as the financial advisor, and being that outside party, whether it's me, whether it's a caregiving, somebody in your group, a neighbor, their friend, that you can bring in that's not you, right? Because if it's your child, if it's your spouse, if it's your brother or sister, the voice isn't the same. And so I find that we have those conversations about, have you saved? Do you have it? What are you doing? And you need to take care of yourself and have care for yourself. Why? Not for you. I know it's supposed to be for you, not for you, but for your family members. How can your daughter fly back up to New York and know you're going to be okay?
Right. She's going to be so
How much
worried.
is that worth, right? You need to give her peace of mind. It's not about you. It's about her having that peace of mind. She can go home and know that if you fall, somebody's there to pick you up, right? If you need something, somebody's going to recognize it. They're not going to find you there 3 days later in that same place that they left you.
And maybe you just want somebody to talk to.
Right.
Right. We gotta remember that we're here to enhance our seniors' lives.
Right.
And we want them to thrive, not just survive. And so what are those things that you can do for your parents so they live out their golden years as they, they scrimped and saved all those years for the golden years. Well, let's not tarnish them. Let's make sure that we can give them that little extra so they are those golden years. So if that just means somebody coming in and giving them some extra love, giving them some extra attention, taking off a burden.
Maybe somebody else can come watch that movie with them that you already saw 15 times that you hate. Or maybe someone else can come in and play that card game that you've been tired of doing. Somebody else can come in and convince them to take a bath when you can't.
Right. And as Becky was saying earlier, sometimes it's just that extra little bit of help where it may be a medical need, but it could just be, we're talking about the fact that people are isolated.
Yeah.
And that isolation and how awful that isolation is and how debilitating that isolation is physically, mentally, the whole thing. And just to have somebody come and just be that person to chat with a couple hours a day. They bring you your groceries, and as they're unpacking your groceries, you can have a conversation. As they clean your dishes, those couple hours a day are life-changing. And I promise you that if that's the case, that person in that house is spending the rest of their day counting the hours until that person comes back.
Right.
Years ago when I lived on Long Island, I was part of this group, and we I had a person that I cooked for every week. His name was Bill. I used to bring food over for him every night, and it was so cool. Every week I would go in, and there'd be an Eisenhower poster on the wall or a Victrola he would pull out. He didn't care about that food. He just wanted me to come over, and I would feel so terrible when I left. Couldn't you just stay a little longer? Can't you stay a little longer? Can't you come over? Let me show you my car out in the garage. Well, I had a neighbor whose wife had recently passed away, and he was really lonely. So I started asking him, could you bring the dinner over for me? And it was okay because he could sit there with Bill for 2 hours, but otherwise, Bill wasn't seen. And I think women would come in maybe 1 or 2 other nights a week, but not every night. Those were the only people he saw. I didn't know about anything I know about then. I was probably 20 years old, but really.
But you gave them both purpose and you connected them.
In a way.
Yeah,
it was kind of cool, but really, because we need that. Sometimes it's just the social part that we need. We don't need help physically, maybe. We don't need somebody to bathe me. I don't need somebody to feed me. I need somebody to talk to me. I need somebody I want to tell stories to.
Right.
That my family is sick of hearing.
Right. And I talk, Linda, often with families about the cost of failure.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
The cost of failure, for if you spend a little bit now to bring in a little bit of help and maybe have somebody come in 4 hours a day, 3 days a week, is going to have X cost to it. But if mom doesn't have somebody coming in right now and she continues to decline, or God forbid she falls and breaks a hip,
God forbid.
And it does happen, or she's so depressed that she is more susceptible to illness. And then lo and behold, it's not that mom can't stay in her house anymore. Now mom's got to go to skilled nursing. Yeah. The cost of skilled nursing is so much higher than the cost of if you just would have brought in a little bit of care to start out with. Step it in, bring in a little bit of care now so that we don't have to pay for that more catastrophic care next month.
Yeah.
It's funny, I think of everything in financial terms, of course, and so to me that's risk mitigation, right?
There you go.
It's hedging your bets. It's putting those things in that limit the downside, right? It's take a little risk off the table, as I would say, in a portfolio, doing the same thing by getting a little help at home.
Yeah. And sometimes, there was things not even concerning money that I felt my mom needed to do, or I wanted to have a button, whatever, and she didn't want one. And finally I'd be, Mom, just please do it for me. Please just do it for me. All right, Linda. But, sometimes you got to play that card.
Yeah, and they won't do it. Sometimes they won't do it for themselves. And conversely, my other soapbox moment is for the caregiver, right? And I know I'm preaching to the choir in this room, so that's a little funny to me. But outside of this room, when I hear somebody start to say, that they're taking care of mom or they're having to take more care of their spouse, and I pound on the table and tell them they have to take care of themselves. Don't forget about yourself and all this. You've got to get some help. You've got to let people help you, because if you don't, then you're sick.
Right.
Right. And where does that leave the person that you're caring for if you're sick?
Right.
And how many times have we all seen that? And I tell them, I've seen this too many times. And I'm telling you, you can't, I know you're strong and you want to take care of them. But if you drive yourself down into that deep gully you can't get out of because you're working so hard, you've done everybody a disservice. Get yourself some help along the way.
And if your loved one sees that you're so depressed and you're so stressed, they feed off of that. They're going to be exactly the same way. If you're worried about this is happening, they just want you to be their spouse or their kid or whatever it is. They just want to spend that time and it makes me so angry.
Right. They do pick up on that stress, and they pick up on that anxiety. So if you can bring somebody fresh into the mix that comes in with some fresh enthusiasm and is totally focused on just their care instead of all the other things that you got worried about. We've got this sandwich generation that is stuck between taking care of an elderly parent, and many of them still have young children at home or teenagers at home, and they're stuck.
Or they're 40-year-old at home that never left.
Oh my gosh.
There's a lot of that around too.
Yeah, there is. And so this sandwich generation is stressed out. And your parents are gonna feed on that stress. And let's bring in some freshness. Let's bring in.
The last few weeks I was with Tom, like you say, he just wanted me to sit in the chair next to him 24/7. I was getting a little stressed, just a little bit of stress, where sometimes I was almost felt like I was gonna snap when he asked me something. But I had to get up, I had to go out, I had to take a walk, I had to go walk away from it. I had to ask someone else, can you please just come in for a half hour and sit with him? I need to go take a walk. First of all, I was just getting crippled from sitting there. But I would come back and right away when I walk in, he'd ask me to do something. I'm like, you can do that. And I don't know if I would have said that the half hour before. I'd be like, yeah, all right. Or I'll get it. Or, and I'd take that twist. And I don't want to be that one saying, I want you to say, yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, that those last days, weeks, months, years, whatever time frame you want to put on it, you don't want them to be resented, to be looked back on in a negative light. You want to have those positive memories.
No regrets.
Yeah, no regrets. No regrets. And on knock wood, I had no regrets. And I don't think Tom did. But you know what? I'm in this business. We had a lot of conversation about a lot of stuff before.
Right. And a lot of us had to call you up on the phone, Linda, and remind you, you of all people, we had to call and remind you for self-care.
Well, I'll tell you, Michelle Lowback. So my girlfriends, Becky and Vernick, they thought, okay, I'll bring food over on Tuesday, and I'll bring food over on Wednesday. I'm like, I don't need your food. I really don't. We got plenty of food here. Tom's hardly eating. Yes, but you need to eat. Yes, I know I need to eat. So one day, Michelle texted me a message, because wouldn't take no. And she said, I'm coming over tonight with wonton and egg drop soup. And I said, good, nobody likes that. I said, but Tom really likes chicken noodle soup, and I really like Pinot Grigio. And when the spell check came out, it came out Pilot Grigio, and Michelle's like, what is that? Where do I get it? I go, at the liquor store. So she came that night and brought a quart of soup and a little bottle of Pinot Grigio for me, and that's what I needed.
Yeah.
But it is, it is hard to accept help. It just is for everybody, especially when you're just so used to who you are.
When you're a giver, when you're a caregiver, it's hard to be a care receiver.
Yeah. So I know, because I'm always preaching to the caregivers all the time. So I try to be a good example.
And great message for those that are friends with those caregivers, right?
Yeah.
They need to reach out and try and help them as well.
Well, sometimes, this is what happens. And so somebody comes to me, Linda, what can I do to help you? You know what? I can't even think straight. Now I got to think about what you could do to help me. Everybody eats. Everybody has laundry. Everybody has a lawn that needs to be mowed or whatever. There's stuff you can do without even asking. You can just pick up some groceries and bring it over. Because it's a little harder with COVID. But you could just say, you know what? I'd like to have a Zoom call with Grandma. grandmas love Zoom calls. They just get to see their kids. Well, I love seeing my granddaughter, I'm a grandma, in Germany, and just having that little conversation time.
Yeah, spend that time. We've got amazing technology right now, and that's something that we brought into. We had a fun event with Dr. Kate McCarty a couple weeks ago, and
She's fabulous.
She's amazing. And we had one of our caregivers in the home, and she brought her smartphone in, and they sat and played games with Kate and other people around the country on the caregiver's smartphone. And oh my gosh, can I tell you, Glenda just had the biggest smile on her face, and she was so excited. And somebody else on the call was from Panama, where Glenda was from Panama.
Yeah, that's so cool.
And then they started talking about Christmas in Panama, and Glenda started speaking in Spanish, and it was amazing.
That's good.
It was awesome.
Engagement is so important.
It
But
is.
right now we need to be engaged with our wonderful sponsors. So don't go away. We'll be right back on Connecting Caregivers Radio. Bobby's giving me the eye. See what he was like in that thing before? Because for months here, I was here by myself. It was just me and him.
Yeah.
And my sister said, Linda, we looked at you on YouTube and you don't smile at all. Well, who am I going to smile to?
Right.
So then he started entertaining me. And he does the thing when I say.
When I gave a presentation recently on Zoom, an educational thing.
It's terrible. Isn't it?
And yeah, and you're talking
To a screen.
but what it was for Guardian Association, and what a couple of them did, which was wonderful, is you couldn't see everybody who
Right.
was listening to you, but two of them, the Orlando, who was acting as the moderator, I don't remember who the other person, but they purposely had their faces on there, so at least you were talking to somebody,
I know.
Nice.
right? And it
Yeah.
really does help. It does help.
I do. I make sure that either that or I make my grandson sit in the room. I'm sorry. I make him sit there for an hour when I'm doing a Zoom presentation because I tell a joke, nobody laughs.
Right.
I say, give yourselves a round of applause.
And it's
It's a
the
whole
quietest
different-
applause you've ever heard.
Yeah,
Right.
it's very different. Now, everyone I've done, even the one I did last week, they're all like, we love it. It was great. I don't know.
Right.
But you didn't get that feedback.
I want to see you eye to eye.
Yeah, you need that live
Well, and
feedback.
I joke about it, but it's true. You know, with financial things, you can lose people, right? It can get very dry and boring, but then you need to recognize it and see it and change the pace or
Yeah.
do something. But if you can't see them, then
Well, even I did one live one during COVID. It was in a huge auditorium. So there was like 18 people there and the rest was on Zoom. And halfway through the presentation, I go, hey, could you do me a favor? If you're smiling into those masks, could you give me a thumbs up? Because they're all just like, you don't know if they like you, they don't like you.
Right.
But they all give me a thumbs up.
And we need those thumbs up.
Yeah, I
You
do.
miss the smile.
I do. I'm back on Fox News. Three more bookings on Fox News.
Nice.
You should give me like a weekly tip.
Really?
You never know. I'm always trying to get whatever I can. But now on Skype, it's harder than when you don't see them.
Mhm.
You need this stuff. And we're off because when you hear that, that means you're supposed to get your pen and paper because Lynn's supposed to tell you good stuff, but Lynn's not here, but I am. Thursday, November 17th, Gary LeBlanc, from the director of the Dementia Education Spotlight, will be doing a webinar, The After Effects of Caregiving. I think I need to go to that one. So it's November 17th at 3 p.m. Anyone that's interested, just email me through the website and I'll send you the link to register. Also, a company contacted me. They're doing a lot of classes for caregivers for stress relief. The name of the company is Seriously Fun Fitness, and you can go to their website, seriouslyfunfitness.com, and they have like cardio drumming and stress release workshops. I really want to try that. I think that you could beat out your anger, your sadness, your joy, or whatever it is. And they're doing a wellness bazaar for caregivers and a day retreat on Sunday, November 15th. So you can go to seriouslyfunfitness.com and find out about those. And last but not least, I will be doing a journaling workshop starting January 11th. It'll be 3 Mondays, January 11th, the 18th, and the 25th at 11 a.m. Gratitude and journaling, because gratitude and journaling equals reduced caregiver stress. I don't have the link for it yet. As soon as I get it, I'll give it to you guys. And anyone who signs up ahead of time, Arden Quartz will send you a beautiful journal, either through the mail or delivered to your house with a pen. So we can get started on journaling. And you don't have to be a caregiver. Gratitude and journaling is good for anybody. So I hope to see you all then. So one of the last things I want to say today is pay attention to what's going on with your loved one, because a lot of people have not seen their family since COVID have started. And they've talked to mom on the phone. And mom is saying, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. Well, if you know mom's neighbor, or if you know mom's friend from church, or from Kiwanis, or from whatever, make sure that they check on mom, because mom may or dad may really need some help, and they may need somebody to come in. And many times too, mom and dad would love to do a Zoom or a Skype, but they don't know how to do it and they're very fearful. It might just be of value to have a caregiver to come in 2 hours a week, spend a little 3 hours a week, spend a little time and Zoom with your family. They could set the whole computer up. I did that with my aunt in Rhode Island. She's 80 something years old. She didn't know from Zoom. So one of my younger cousins went over there and he hooked it up for her and she came on the Zoom and she was just so delighted to hear. And we were great to see her. So think about that. So, maybe just have a home health care company come in and help you with a few different things like that. And then also too, if you have that person come in, they can really see what's going on and really report back to you. Because so many times I hear from caregivers, if only I knew. If only I knew mama needed time. If only I knew mama needed help. And just like we were saying, Becky and Mark, if you don't know, you can't do anything about it, because mom's going to tell you she's just fine.
Yeah, there's a great importance on laying eyes on somebody.
Yeah.
There's one thing to hear it, but actually having that visual is so important.
Yeah. That's why I even get I'm not so crazy about these computer doctors, seeing the doctor on the computer. I want the doctor to see me. My doctor will know when I walk in if there's something wrong with me. You know what I mean?
Right. And even certainly ideally that you're seeing them in person, but even somebody who may speak to them on a more regular basis. One of the best things that happened in my industry recently used to be that if we got a phone call from a client and we were concerned, they didn't sound right, they were asking for money that seemed inappropriate. Maybe we were concerned about somebody taking advantage or all those things.
Yeah.
There was an issue. Most of us would find ways around it. We knew family and we could kind of broach the subject, but there was a chance we could get sued, right? It was breaching that client trust. But now when we fill out a new account application, there's a place right on the application where we ask the client and they give us, with their permission,
perfect,
the name and the number of that person that we can contact if we have a question, if there's something that seems awry, if we can't get a hold of them. And it's just another set of eyes and ears that
they trust.
Right.
That they're going to listen to, that you can trust too, because they gave you that information.
Right.
Yeah, it's a safety net.
It is. And it's such a relief to me and people in my industry to know that we can make that phone call.
You don't feel like you're sneaking around or something.
Right, and worry that there's some crazy repercussion that could happen because we were just trying to do the right thing.
There's no breach of confidence there.
Right.
Because sometimes there are people that don't do very good things, children that don't do, I always say too, you want to be friends with your parents' banker. You want to know their banker, because, mom could just go in there. I've heard of mom sending thousands and thousands of dollars to charities because the bills come in and she just thinks it's a bill, or she doesn't realize that she gave last week, and she writes out another check, and then all of a sudden the bank's calling you up and saying mom's account is overdrawn $680, and you're like, how? Well, she gave to those charities or to whoever. So you want to be friends with the banker And the bank will call you and say, you know what, this is, I don't know what their laws are, but my bank has always called me if they thought something was funny. So I suggest you do that too. And the neighbors are going to tell you what nobody else tells you. One of my caregivers went to the neighbor's house and said she went to visit from out of town. And the neighbor said to her, oh my goodness, when they took Mom in the ambulance 2 weeks ago, we were so upset. Oh, Mom never told her. Mom wasn't going to tell her. So you need to know to the neighbors. What's the last thing you want to tell our caregivers today?
We have this little funny phrase, and people who know me in the market know I'll say, when you can't do it all, give Assisting Hands a call. I'll do those consultations for free. Talk on the phone with you. If I don't know a solution, I'm going to know somebody who will know a solution. Right. So don't hesitate to call us. You can reach us at 727-748-4211 or on the internet at assistinghands.com/St. Pete.
And on my website. Mark?
For us, it's just think about it, plan for it, have the discussions ahead of time, whether they be financial discussions or otherwise. Know who that person is that you can reach out to, know what the relationship is, and know what's going on. We have software and platforms that, with the senior member of the family's permission, we can share all their information. We can tie in all their accounts, their bank accounts, their investment accounts, their credit cards, all those things, and you can see it from wherever you want to see it.
And they can find you at
vernickfinancial.com.
And also on my website. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody, today. I know it's always hard to tune into a whole show, but anytime you tune in at all or listen to a repeat, I really appreciate it. Remember, God loves you all the time, and have a delicious day.
There we go.
There we go.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you, Linda.
No problem. Sorry, I
That's
started
where I found that, right?
Yeah.
That's okay.
Oh, I just hope there's no nonsense in New York. I just want to go there and see my peeps and
Get in and get
home.
out.
Yeah.
Get in and get out.
Yeah, it's like, I want it to be stressful.
So, Mark, I got a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.